Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I am your host, and I have a very special guest on today, a good friend of mine that we've been friends on Facebook for a while, and now here we are. He's on the show. This guy is coming in all the way from the great country of New Zealand. Want to welcome my buddy Hanz Freller to the show. Hans, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks, Ken. Thanks for having me. The islands, yeah.
Hey, man, I'm really grateful to have you on here. I know it's like 4 o'clock at 5 o'clock in the morning there.
It is indeed.
You just woke up?
I've been up for a couple of hours. I was rather excited, to be honest. I got to be fair. I was excited, so I couldn't sleep for a couple of hours. So I thought I'd get up and put my makeup on, do my hair, and yeah, here I am.
Dude, your hair looks awesome. Looks great.
Look after it.
So Hans, we'll get into what you recently released. We'll get into that here in a little bit, but I want to introduce you to people that may not know who you are. Kind of, tell them where you were born and raised. Let's start with that. Where were you born and raised?
Sure. Look, I'm born and raised in Christchurch, New Zealand. So, which is a population of about maybe 300,000-400,000 people in the I think about second largest city in New Zealand. So that's where I am. Born in the 70s, so a child of the 80s, no technology, grown up outside, climbing trees and throwing sticks and stones. So
you said you're in Christchurch?
Yeah, Christchurch.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's you took a picture with my book in front of the airport there.
I did indeed.
That was awesome. I was like, oh my gosh, my book just went global. So you grew up, you went to school there in New Zealand. You've never lived anywhere else?
I grew up, yeah, basically no. I lived in Australia for a little bit, which I talk about in my book, but not for very long. But most of my life, I'd say maybe a year I've lived elsewhere, scattered across the globe, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty much life in New Zealand.
Right.
Nice quiet part of the world.
Yeah. What other parts have you lived? Have you ever lived in the States?
Never lived in the States. I lived in Australia for about 6 or 7 months.
Oh, okay.
And I did a bit of a bike trip in Europe. So I lived in Spain for 5 weeks. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
And that's about it. But I've traveled a little bit, but seen parts of the world.
What was it like growing up in New Zealand? And I said, before we went live, I said down there with the kangaroos, and you're like, no, that's Australia.
That's the neighbours. We often get mistaken for Australian, which is a bit of a shame. I think
a bit of a shame.
So I think it has something to do with the sport. Like, obviously, the New Zealand were quite famous for rugby.
Yeah.
And the national rugby team, the All Blacks. So it's we always have a big brother, little brother competition between Australia.
Yeah.
So when everyone says, "Oh, you're from Australia,"
no, similar accent. It's a similar accent. A little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
You're like,
maybe for the untrained ear. Yeah, I think for a lot of Kiwis, native New Zealanders, Kiwis, we tend to think that the Australians have a bit more of a twang to the way they talk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Australia, kind of like that, but maybe not. Yeah, I don't want to say anything, but that's how they come across to us.
That's funny. That's funny. So, so growing up there, you went to, I assume they have like similar to the United States. You have like grade school and junior high. Do you have high school, all that, or how does the schooling system work there?
Yeah, well, it is a little bit different than the States from what I understand. Over here in New Zealand, we have what they call primary school. So basically from about 5 years old, 5 or 6, depending on when parents want to send you, from that age to about 11 is primary school. And then they have an intermediate, which is ages 11 and 12. And then after that, 13 through to 16 or 17 is high school, which I think is kind of similar to your college, maybe. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Then after that, you can go to university, which is, the higher learning side of things.
Yeah. So what was it like for you growing up? I mean, what did you get in trouble a lot? Were you a good kid? Did you get perfect grades? What was it like?
I would say perfect grades. I've had a bit of an interesting life, I would say. Grew up in foster care to start off with. You didn't really know my parents from that sort of age. Out in foster care, my father came back in my life when I was 5. I think they had us from what I have obviously have now learnt. The parents sort of shot the gap that took off when I was young. I went into foster care, and then Dad came back when I was 5. Took us under the wing. Went to school. Obviously got into a little bit of trouble at school. If you ever do get my book, read Principal's Office. It's quite a few trips to the Principal's office, I'd have to say.
Yeah.
But it's much of a muchness, just playing and enjoying life as a kid. I mean, you don't really, I never knew anything better other than, what was going on. So although my parents weren't there to start off with, you just carried on. You don't know any better when you're young, and kind of however old I was, 5, 6, 7. Dad sort of got a girlfriend later on, remarried. And so the family grew from 3 to 6 because I've got an older brother. So the 3 of us were all living together after Dad picked us up from the foster care. So it's rather interesting life.
Wow. So you were raised from a young age by foster parents.
Yeah.
Until about 5, you said?
Yeah. So my earliest memory is probably around that sort of 4 and 5 mark. Obviously I've been told since that I was in foster care from the age of 2.
Wow.
Because of the circumstances. And so I was in there for 3 years, and then Dad came along, and in the foster care, it's not some nice stuff happen. You're abused and whatnot. But that's in the book. And then Dad sort of took us home, came back, and I don't know, whatever he sort of felt some sort of way, and to have us back in his life. So that's kind of where life as a young kid, kind of, I wouldn't say rural because we're a civilized nation. Living as a kid, playing with your friends at school, getting into trouble, being smart, that sort of stuff. Obviously before all the technology sort of came around. And then from there, it kind of got a little bit crazier. After Dad remarried, had a stepbrother and sister who got on really well, really competitive and whatnot. And then, I think at the age of 14, arrived home from school one day to find a note on the kitchen table, which was basically a note from my father saying he'd left. So that was life-changing, I have to say.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah.
And left you with what? Your stepmother?
My stepmother, her 2 children. My older brother had already left home by that stage, so it was me versus them.
Oh my God. Wow. Wow. So at 14, your dad took off and left you with your stepmother, and your stepmother kept you?
Yeah, she put up with me, I'd have to say.
Put up with you.
She put up with me for a little while. It just got too much for me, I think. And that was at the start of whatever year it was. So there was about 4 or 5 weeks after that. I ended up running away from home.
Wow.
I just couldn't handle it. It was just
at 14.
Yeah, at 14, dropped out of school. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was. I talk a lot about the emotions and the stuff within my book, which we'll talk about later. But I'll always go back to it because I only just kind of finished it. It's still very fresh, and I talk a lot about the feelings that I had, when Dad left, the betrayal, how upset I was, and acting out at school. And that was all part of, trying to cope, trying to find my place. And it's, I don't know. I really didn't know anything else. So, what do? I can't turn to Mum. I can't turn to Dad. And the relationship between the stepmother was a bit fragile, I think. And so I ended up just leaving and was on a mission because we lived out in the country, about sort of 40 minutes out of the country. So I jumped on a bus and headed into town, having these dreams and aspirations to find my brother in this city of about 300,000 people. And I ended up going back to the old neighbourhood, my old primary school. Okay. Obviously, I couldn't find him. And, it was kind of a lost cause, trying to find a needle in a haystack for sure.
Wow. And that's at 14 years old.
At 14, correct. Yeah.
Good Lord have mercy. So you, wow, man. I didn't know that. See, I haven't read your book yet.
Okay.
I have it. I got it. As soon as I saw your link, I got it, but I haven't read it yet. But so you talk about all of this in your book.
Absolutely.
And how long were you, and what city did you go to that's 300,000?
Yeah, so Christchurch. So we live just outside of Christchurch. I grew up in Christchurch. Obviously, when Dad remarried, we moved to the country for a better life.
Yeah.
That sort of carry on. And
wasn't
too far away.
So you ended up in Christchurch at 14 years old, ran away from home looking for your brother. How long were you there?
Well, basically a day. So what happened?
One day? Dude, that's not very dramatic. Come on, man. I thought you were going to say like 6 months.
No, well, I know. I couldn't handle it.
I'm kidding.
So I get into town. I'm looking for my brother. Couldn't find him and end up not really knowing what to do. So with the little money I had, I bought some fish and chips. I don't know if you guys have fish and chips over there. It's just like little potato chips.
We call them fish and French fries, I think.
Yeah, French fries. Yeah, so fish and chips we call them. And so I bought something to eat. This is probably middle of the morning, sort of around lunchtime. I was getting hungry. And I ended up spending the rest of my money in the arcade parlors. So just wasting little money I had and just trying to, fill a void, I guess, trying to not think about what was going on.
Yeah.
And by 10 o'clock that night, because I'd stayed there all day, I was just like, I don't know what to do, don't know where I'm going. And I decided to walk to my stepmother's parents, I guess my grandparents.
Yeah.
So I ended up making my way to their house and tapping on the door and hey, and of course they didn't know where I was. So
they didn't know who you were?
No, they didn't know where I were. They'd be looking for me all day. So obviously them and the stepmother and stuff. And so they called the stepmother and they had a bit of a discussion and she didn't want me back.
Oh no! Wow.
Well, if you run away from home, I don't want them. So I guess.
Wow. So what happened from there?
So I ended up staying there for a while, for about 6 months.
At your step grandparents?
Yeah. They took me out of their room, and it was kind of nice, really nice of them actually. And then things got a little bit heated. I was just getting in the wrong crowd, just not listening and
Yeah.
stealing money just to go and play video games and whatnot. And at the end of it, they were like, right, you've got to move out. So they found me some accommodation in a boys' home, kind of like I don't know, troubled youth home, I guess you'd call it.
Wow.
Of some sort. So yeah, and then so I moved in there. That's where I spent the rest of my teenage years, I guess, up until I was about 18. So 4 years.
Did you really? So let me get this. Let me put this back together here. So at about 2 years old, you went into foster care. Around 5, your father shows back up in your life and takes you to live with him. And at 14, he checks out again, and you don't. Do you see him anymore at all, or? Wow. And so and you ran away from home from the stepmother and ended up living with her parents for about 6 months. And they didn't appreciate the fact that you were an angel sent to them.
Very true.
Right. And so that you ended up in a boys' home when you were 18. So, and what about your real mother? You never
met it. No.
Wow. No, you still haven't.
I have now. That was I was gonna wait. Spoiler alert.
All right, we'll get to that. Wow, man. So at 18 years old, you're in this boys' home. What are they on your 18th birthday? They say, hey, it's time to go.
Kind of. So I'm in there about 14, 15, and going through life, and it's like.
And were you back in school? Did you go back to school?
Well, I really enjoyed school as a kid. I loved getting out there. Playing sports was my thing. I've always played soccer. I know you guys call it soccer over there.
Yeah.
So I've always loved playing sports, athletics, whatever. So I really missed that. And so when I was in the boys' home, I said, hey, look, I want to go back to school. And being in the boys' home was a total contrast of what life was for me. Yeah. You know, I thought I'd grow up and have, be left the house and the car and all that sort of thing. To me, life was pretty good.
Yeah.
Moving into the boys' home, there were kids who were taking drugs and drinking and having sex and relationships, and they were gangsters, stuff that you'd see on TV. That you're like, oh, wow, kind of like Boys to Men sort of environment from the movie. And I was kind of blown away. And while I was there, I sort of got to know a few of the residents, we can call them, and kind of made some friends with them. I was really kind of quiet and timid, and I think the reason it took so long, about 6 months, to find me a place when I was living at the grandparents, is because they ended up finding my brother, and he was living in this home at the same time. And so obviously they were like, hey, 2 brothers, let's bring them together and you can be under the same roof again. Yeah. So that was kind of a good part of being in the boys' home, was having my brother around.
Now, if I could ask you one, I want to ask you something. You said earlier that there were 3 of you.
Father, brother, and me.
Oh. So they're just you and your brother then okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So, and in the boys' home, it was an eye opener for me, from coming from, a naive background, I would call it.
Yeah.
Not knowing anything of the world. I mean, but how many 14-year-olds do? Well, probably nowadays they do, but back then, back in the 80s.
Yeah, right.
And while I was at the boys' home, I'll just cut to the chase. I was sexually abused at the boys' home. So that was interesting, I guess.
Yeah,
you can call it that. That was definitely a game changer.
Wow. So, Jiminy Christmas, dude. So I had a pretty volatile childhood as well. Not anywhere near what yours is. I wasn't in a foster home or any of that, but I probably would have been better off at some point in there. But like I know what comes along with that, and for me, it was a lot of anger. I was pissed off. Did you find yourself in that position, just angry about everything and revolting against everyone?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was an angry young kid, hated the world, and didn't want anything to do with any sort of authority over my life. If my wasn't my motto, but my theory was, if my mother and father didn't want me, the people that were supposed to bring me up in the world didn't want me, I wasn't going to listen to anyone else. So it was rebellious young Hanz, doing whatever I wanted to do. And especially after the sexual abuse was happening, because that went on for a long period, it's all part of, it was grooming and all that sort of mental sort of vulnerability that sort of is caused. So that went on for a while, but during that time I was made to feel special and all of those things. And I just became angrier and angrier. Like, why me? What's happening? I can't understand what is going on. Help! On the inside, I'm crying for help, but I don't have the courage or the strength to sort of say anything to anybody, because the guilt, the shame, all of that sort of is encompassed with what's going on. And so, I found my solace. I ended up finding my solace, as crazy as it seems, in video games. So here I was, just going to school. I would leave school after school to get away from the home. I would go to town and play video games until the last bus, and then I catch the last bus home, go into my room, lock myself in my room, wake up in the morning, have breakfast before everyone else got up, and repeated the same thing for weeks on end.
Yeah.
Avoiding everybody, avoiding as much as I could, because I was so hurt.
Did you end up graduating high school? Or
I dropped out.
Yeah.
Dropped out again.
Hey man, I get it. So you so at 18-ish or so, I'm assuming you left the boys' home at some point.
Yeah.
So
I did, yeah.
Yeah. And so what happened when you had to start doing the adulting thing, when you had to go out and be an adult? What happened?
The big life thing. Well, in that sort of 3 to 4 year period, towards the end of my stay, I ended up, there was a family meeting at the boys' home. So not a family meeting, like a house meeting.
Yeah.
So everyone came in because the guy who was abusing me had basically disappeared. He was gone. No one knew where he was. The staff members weren't sure, and then so all these allegations started coming forward from various sources. He's no longer here. He's been doing some dodgy happenings. And so all the staff congregated at the boys' home and said, we need to have a house meeting. And basically within the house meeting, they were saying, hey, we've heard that these allegations of sexual abuse have been brought against said person. We just want to let you know there's no real evidence, just hearsay at the minute.
Wow.
Does anybody want to say anything? And as you can imagine, I'm like 17, nearly 17, 16, however old I was, starting to really boil. It was really getting under my skin.
Yeah.
One of the older boys who'd been in the boys' home a long time, he'd come and go and visit and stuff just to see the staff and whatnot. He stood up and basically said, hey, this guy's stand-up guy, known him for a couple of decades or whatever it was. Anyone who says anything against him in this sort of matter about being, sexually abusing people is basically lying. And I was just like, what? And I would say we didn't get on. We just we tolerated each other.
Yeah.
So I just lost the plot. I just jumped up and ran at him and pinned him down and, let my anger out on poor guy.
Wow.
And this was in a splits of a second. And everyone's just going, what's going on? What's going on? And one of the big staff members, Alex, who I mentioned in the book, he's just like a Hulk of a guy. He's like the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
He just picked me up and walked me out. And I was just like, obviously at this stage I was crying and upset and put in the staff room and just kind of left to simmer for a little bit and cool down. And one of the staff members, who was basically my caregiver, my guardian, while I was in the home, she came up to me and said, do you want to talk? Is there something you want to say? And basically after a wee while, I told her, I said to her, I've been sexually abused. And she was gutted, but it was such to finally tell somebody, I was just like, just a weight off my shoulder.
Sure.
And I've kind of been alluding it to friends with, my close buddies within the boys' home, but I never really sort of told them. I just kind of, what would you do if this happened? Or, I remember there was a famous court case going on through the on media or on the news and stuff, and there was speculation about certain things happening, and I would go, kind of take an interest in it, trying, what would you do if this happened to you? That was kind of like my way of saying, hey, hey, that's kind of what's happening. So being able to tell, the staff member was such a weight. And so, to go back from being in the boys' home, obviously all that sort of stuff came out. I ended up going and staying in what they have a house. Basically there's the boys' home, then you've got real life, which is the 2 steps down. So in between is kind of like a transitional house.
Yeah.
that the boys' home ran. So basically you get to 18, they'd say, hey, you're more than welcome to go and live with your parents or whatever. Because I didn't have that, they said, we have a transitional house, we pay for the rent. All you do is pay a portion of the rent and you have to pay your amenities. So, power and phone and, food and all that sort of carry on. So I'd been going from living, I was getting a benefit from the government for being an independent youth, unsupported child, because my parents were around. So I was getting money from the government, paying $30 a week for everything. Now I was paying, $120.
Yeah.
I've got no money.
Right.
So, obviously it was an interesting stage, but it was really, really good because, you learn pretty quickly to what you can and can't do. So I think, although I wouldn't say I was carefree, I was very much aware that I've only got $150 for a week, and $120 of that has to go on things that I need, food, clothing, shelter, sort of deal. So I've got $30 for transport to catch the bus for a whole week, which,
So no more video games.
Well, there was always room for video games. Only 20 cents back then. So,
right.
Nowadays are like $2.
Right. So, wow, man. So you and so did you get a job? I'm sure you had a job, right?
No job.
Oh,
I was getting paid from the government. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So did you ever I'm sure at some point you were like, I need a job.
I did. Not till a few years later, though.
Wow.
Yeah.
No kidding. Wow.
I was getting government assistance.
Wow.
For a long time. I didn't want to work. I hated the world. I was just going from course to course, trying to, life courses, doing bits and pieces. Just, I didn't want to work for anybody. Authority was not something that I wanted to. I respected the law, absolutely respected. One thing my father said was, don't get in trouble with the law. If you want to travel, because you'd always talk about Austria, and because my father's from Austria. If you ever want to travel, don't get in trouble with the law. And I was like, okay, that's probably the one thing that I ever held on to.
Yeah.
And so that was the thing I never did. And, for me, in my eyes, and going into a boys' home and seeing the I don't know, the issues that alcohol and drugs caused, and also keeping in mind that my father said stay out of trouble with the police. I never touched drugs or alcohol while I was in the boys' home. I never drank alcohol until I was 28.
Wow.
And, obviously I was smoking and sniffing glue in the boys' home, but, not until after when I moved out into the real world, flatting and whatnot, I steered clear of all that kind of stuff. Because I held on to this dream of that one day I'll be able to travel the world and without being denied access to a country because of my police record or anything like that,
Yeah, right. Wow, man. So, and the not having a job thing, and I'm sure that there was at some point, especially when you're angry with the world and you hated the world, and I can relate to that. You almost feel like the world owes you something. Like this hand I've been dealt in life is a bunch of crap, and y'all need to like pay up, right? Like so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you just feel there's a sense of entitlement. Like, I got screwed over in life as a kid my entire life, and y'all owe me. So at some point, because you don't strike me as an entitled dude now, and you don't see. I know you have a good job, and I know you have a book that you just released, and we're going to talk about that. But at some point, was there a moment where life shifted for you? Was there a moment where of clarity, maybe, where you're like, I got to get it together and take responsibility? Or
Absolutely, there was, and it's funny. I've never been a religious person. As far as the God, the higher beings, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Up until after I left the boys' home, and obviously because I was in the boys' home, it was a religious kind of environment, I guess. I don't, and that was just it was what it was. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And I was in one night. I was in playing arcade games one night with a friend in town. And an acquaintance came in and says, "Hey, do you want to go to a beach party?" And we're like, "Oh, we're about to head home." And he says, "Oh, it'd be really cool, come down to be beach party, be food. Food's always good. It's always it's always
right.
good when you're on your bones of your behind.
Yeah,
you don't have much to eat, so we're like, sweet, good deal, and we can drop you home." I'm like, "Oh, bonus," because I was living on the other side of town, so free food, a trip home. Good to go. And then they said, "Oh, and these girls," and we're like, golden.
Right.
Well, and as a young, 18-year-old, 17, 18-year-old, I'm like, okay. So me and my friend, we jump in this random van, and we're sitting in the van, and there's all these giggling kids. They're not kids. They're obviously the same age as us.
Yeah.
But, maybe sort of 16, 15, 16 sort of kids.
Yeah.
And we're just like, well, what are we doing? What is going on?
And how old are you at this point?
I'm 18.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So they're like, okay, let's go to the beach. So we get to the beach. I'm hanging out with my mate, and all these people introducing themselves and the leaders. It was turned out to be a church youth group.
Oh wow.
And and if you ever think that sort of the universe conspires for things to happen,
those sneaky Christians.
Something watching.
I love it.
And so we're at the beach party, and introducing myself. It was kind of like they were happy, and I was just like, oh, it's kind of something that I wanted. I was just like, wow, everybody is so happy and chirpy and fluffy and stuff, but I've just come from the other side of the fence, and here I am looking over, going, "There's all these people jumping around, going, yeah, life is so grand." And I was just okay, yeah. So at the end of the night, we had our barbecue, and people everywhere, and it's time to go home. And one of the youth leaders dropped me off home, and she's like, "Hey, look, we've got a church service tomorrow. Are you keen?" And I'm like, "Oh, nah, yeah, nah, yes, but no." And
hold it. She said, "Are you what? Are you
keen to come along to the church?"
Did you say keen?
Yeah, keen, eager.
We
keen.
don't say that here.
Sorry, that's
maybe they do in some parts of the U.S. I don't.
Oh, yeah, it's my Kiwi vernacular. Are you keen? Are you interested in coming along? Too?
Are you down? Are you down?
Yeah, are you down? Yeah, that's
I love it. Love that.
So I said, "Oh, look, yes, but no thanks." And then he said, "Hey, look, next week we've got another youth event. So this is basically a youth event. Do you want to come along to that?" And I said, "Look, give me a call during the week, and we'll see where we're at." And sure enough, like for that entire trip home, I was thinking, "Don't give my number, because I kind of figured out that from a church group." And I get home, we had this conversation, and I gave him my number. I'm like, sneaky Christians doing their thing. And
they are, man. I'm telling you, they are.
Yeah, and so basically, she texts me in the week and says, "Hey, you came to come along." I said, "Yeah, no dramas. It's cool. No, it'll be cool. It'll be fun."
Yeah.
And so I go along to that another event, and the following day, that following week, it's really cool. I really enjoyed it. It was actually, I still remember, it was a hole in one night. So anything that had a hole in it, like donuts and tires and anything with the paper hole things.
Yeah.
That was kind of the theme of doing obstacle courses. So that was kind of like my real first introduction to a religion, I guess. I don't think I like using the term religion or religious. It was kind of an introduction into the Christian youth group thing.
Sure.
And so during all of this time, while my new sort of life is beginning to take shape, Laura, who was the staff member at the boys' home, who, obviously we spoke, I told her what I've been sexually abused. She was a really big advocate for me to get therapy right from the get-go.
Oh, wow.
And so, she would take me along to therapy sessions. I'd sit down and I would try and suss out what this therapist was all about and all of those types of things, because I was just, in my mind, I was thinking, why would these people want to talk to me? They're just going to tell me what I want to hear.
Right.
And I wasn't really kind of interested in doing any of that. But Laura was really pushing, saying, "Hey, look, this is a really big deal. If you can go along and start talking to someone about not so much the details about how you're feeling and all these things, it'll benefit you further down the track." And I'm thinking, "Oh, yeah, okay." And so now that I've started going to this youth group on a regular, I am also going to therapy every week. Laura would pick me up from home, and she would take me. She'd wait outside or wait in the office, outside the office, and while I'd have my therapy for an hour, and then she'd take me home and we'd sort of have a wee debrief about how I was feeling about it all.
So
and it was
when you said you were going to youth group on the regular, what's like every day or once a week or?
Once a week.
Oh, was it once a week?
Yeah, it started off once a week, but I became so involved. It was a totally different. I wanted to get away from the boys' home, so going to the youth group on with people, and obviously by this stage I talked to my therapist about it. He said getting out there and being around other people in a positive light is really good for you. And I'm like, okay, so I stuck with that.
Sure.
That's awesome. So obviously I'm doing the thing with the church thing, and obviously I started going to church, sort of around that same time, and while I was going to therapy, and and we're talking about not having a job and things, and those we'll hashtag it sneaky Christians.
Vicky already did that.
Yeah, I saw that. Thanks, Vicky. And so basically, they took me under their wing. Some of the leaders took me under their wing, and one of them, offered me a job at the church. They were doing some renovations in the church, and they needed some muscle, I guess, to lug around the wheelbarrows of clay and dirt and bricks and whatnot that they're pulling down. So I ended up working for the church for a little bit, and just helping them doing whatever labor work that they had. And so that was really good to get me in some sort of routine. And I remember the day where he says, "Hey, can you come into work?" I said, "Yeah, I can, but I need to go to an appointment at 1 o'clock or whatever time it was." And he goes, "Oh, what's the appointment for?" And it was the first time I'd ever told anybody that I was going to therapy. And he kind of looked at me and he says, "Oh, that's a good thing." And I kind of looked, I went, "Oh, he's not going to kind of ridicule me or poke fun or anything like that." And I was just like, wow, that's like, to me, that it was kudos. I was like, wow, you're not going to, because, when I was in the boys' home, people talked about therapy. And it's like, you got something wrong with you, and there's this and that, and you've lost your marbles, all that sort of carry on. But in this circle, when I told someone, they said, "Oh, that's great, that's awesome. No worries, I'll see you after. I'll come back after you've done that, and we'll get back to work." And I'm like, all right. And so that was kind of like my life. And I was getting back into youth group. Well, not getting back, and I was going to youth group all the time, on a weekly basis. And then it soon turned into 3 or 4 times a week with the youth group events that they were doing. And during that time, probably towards the end of whatever year that was, they were like, "Hey, we're going to go up to another wee town sort of north of Christchurch at the top part of the South Island called Picton. Do you want to come along?" So I got invited to one of their outreaches. And I had a really good time. And I decided probably at the age of 18, maybe 19, that I'd commit my life to God. So that was kind of having an experience where I had every reason not to believe in God, that God was not real because of what had happened to me. I was like, well, I'm just going to find out for myself, and not believe what other people said. "Oh, you shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that." I'd rather experience something for myself and try something out and find out whether or not that's the right thing for me. And it was, it was something that I committed to, and, still to this day. I'm not perfect, but
Wow, man, that's awesome. Wow, what an incredible story. And you gave your life to Christ when?
In
How old?
In what year?
How old were you?
I would be close to 19.
Okay. Yeah. And you're 27 now?
Man, we'll be friends for life.
I grew up in the 80s too, so I know about how old you are.
Yeah.
So wow, man, you really went through a lot. And so you got tricked into going you thought you were going out to party and have some fun with some women, and here it was, a Christian youth group. They tricked you, those sneaky hashtag sneaky Christians. So wow, dude, that's freaking awesome. What an awesome story. So you gave your life to Christ, and do you still work for the church?
No, I have very little to do with that church now, but there's still I still have a few contacts here, because people come and go within a church, but I don't think there's maybe 1 or 2 people who are still there. I'm still in contact with one of the guys who was in the van, the youth leader who picked me up from the arcade place, took me to the beach party. So I'm still very much involved, hanging out with him, and he's been like my surrogate father.
Yeah.
Over the years, so he's seen some good times and bad times. So aside from that, it was very much a part of life that was very, I think you can get to a fork in the road, I guess, and you can either go left or right. And that was one of those times where, had I not given my phone number to the youth leader that dropped me off, I probably would have gone left. But as things turn out, and as God's plan is always, far beyond what we can sort of imagine.
Yep, you're right, man.
It just kind of happens. And through and through even early in my life, I always felt there was something out there. I don't know what it was. I had no idea. Something watching over me. So, and that's very much part of, obviously when you become wiser, when you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the church circles, and to say that I remained in the church circles and was this good Christian boy and all that sort of carry on going to therapy would be a lie, because that didn't happen.
Right.
A few years later, I just, therapy was great to start off with, and it was, we spoke about certain things, but when we got down to the nitty gritty of the core and the abandonment, the abuse, and all of that really hard stuff, I kind of walked away from it. I was just like, no, it's too hard. It was just too much for me, and I just kind of like, no, I think I'll just kind of do it on my own. And back to video games, and obviously by this time I was smoking drugs and just marijuana. So in my mind, if it was natural, it was okay.
Sure.
Yeah, because it was natural,
Yeah.
And so I steered clear of everything else, and
it's God's way of saying hi.
Oh,
I may or may not have justified my use with that, but so you got it. So you went off the path.
Yeah.
You went off the path for a while. And how did that work out for you?
Well, I think God always puts things in perspective sometimes, and he always, I guess because he's understanding, and if I wasn't going to go to therapy, then something else would come along. And for me, it wasn't video games at the time. It turned out to be hacky sack. And exactly, because I love playing sport, and hacky sack was a thing that was kind of new in the 90s.
Yeah.
And everyone was doing it, and it was challenging. So, and it was something I could do by myself and get better at by playing by myself. So I would go away and I meet some friends from the arcade outfit, and they said, "Oh, come down and play hacky sack." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So from there, it was hacky sack was my therapy, and I just played hacky sack all the time, 8 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. And, in that little game where people would walk past, get a job, get a life, you're doing nothing with your life other than kicking this little hacky sack around without it sounds crazy, without a word of a lie, I've traveled the world because of hacky sack.
Really?
Absolutely, yep.
Wow.
I'm pretty proud of it, but people were like, "What?
Do you still do it?"
I can still play, but I don't compete anymore. So I gave that up a few years ago.
That's incredible, man. So at some point though, you came back to your faith.
I did.
When was that?
And I don't think I lost my faith. I just steered clear of the crazy, sneaky Christians, we'll call them.
Yeah.
I learned that my relationship was between God and myself. Although I wasn't doing the right thing sometimes, I would always sit down and go, I need help. What do I do? Where can I go? What's happening in my life? I don't know what's going on, Yeah. And I think there was a few, when I gave my life, because, you can do this because God's so powerful.
Yeah.
I said to him, if you're real, I said to God, if you're real, in my own little quiet space, I said, if you're real, God, you'll bring my mother and my father back into my life within 10 years. And so I said that to him. I says, because, you don't know when you're young,
Yeah.
And I said that to him. I said, prove to me that you're real by bringing my parents back into my life within 10 years. And he did.
Wow. No kidding. Wow, man.
Yeah.
How did that happen? At what point, how did it happen? Like they didn't just like knock on your door and go, "Hey."
not well, no, I don't know. Well, you maybe.
Did they?
All right. So the first one to come back in my life was actually, who was it? It was my father.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first one to come back with my life was my father.
And how old were you?
I was 26, thereabout, mid-20s. Yeah. So it'd been about 10 years since I'd last seen him.
Wow.
And basically, I was working at the time. So I was working, me and my crew of sneaky Christians were living in a flat together. And basically, I was working graveyard shifts. So from, I think, 11 o'clock at midnight till 7 in the morning or whatever it was.
Yeah.
At the local plastic factory around the corner. And so I'd, basically get home. Everyone else is getting up, ready for their day. And I would go to bed and sleep until mid-afternoon. And one morning, just got into bed. My flatmate came and knocked on my door. He says, "Oh, there's someone at the door." And I was grumpy, been working all day. I was just wanting to get some sleep. And I go to the door. I'm like, okay. And I said, "Who is it?" Because he, obviously we're close friends. I said, "I don't know. I've never seen him before." So
wow.
I get to the door. I open the door, and here's this old dude with a grey beard, bald, kind of like this guy, and with a big hat on. And I knew it was my father straight away.
Wow.
Yeah. I was just like burst into tears and wrapped my arms around him. And
wow.
I was just blown away.
The
first thing that came to my mind was like, okay, that's one down, to God. You mean God? That's one. You still have
all right, God. That was kind of cool, but no biggie. What you got for me? Wow, man. Yeah. So how long had it been since you told God that, hey, dude, if you're real, you need to make this happen?
Probably about 7 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, here's the deal. And while I was going around doing whatever I was doing,
yeah.
God was kind of orchestrating a game of chess.
Yeah.
And and so that didn't last as long as I guess you kind of would expect, because all those feelings of abandonment came up. I talked about them in therapy, but never really addressed them. And so all those feelings came up. And so we were obviously that day, the initial euphoric feeling of having my father there after so long.
Yeah.
He comes back the following day, and I'd gone to work and gone, I don't want him in my life.
Right.
So hurt, because obviously he left a note saying, hey, blah, blah, blah. What do I remember it was, I'm sorry, look after Hanz or whatever. And, he'd spoken to me and said that he was going to take me with him to Australia and start a new life, but he never did. And so I really resented the fact that I was left alone. And so when he came back into my life, all that came back up, and I was like, oh, hold on, I'm not really comfortable with having you back in my life. And he walks into my room and says, are you going to go for a walk? I said no. And at the time I was playing one of those console game things on the Mega Drive or whatever it was. And I picked it up and threw it at him and told him to get out.
Wow.
In a not so nice Christian way.
Right.
And that was the last I saw of him, as he walked out and down the hallway and disappeared. And so, but I still gave God, hey, okay, one came back into my life, one of my parents.
Like, good job, big guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But but hey, I just want to remind you, God, that wasn't the whole deal.
No, it wasn't the whole deal. I did remind him of that. I'm like,
did you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And so, I was that kind of portion. And obviously I started going back to therapy then at that time, just trying to suss out what was going on in my head.
Yeah.
And then obviously, a few years later, probably 2 or 3 years later, because it was both parents came within that 10-year bracket, so it must have been a couple of years later. I was playing hacky sack by this time, and when I moved into a new flat with another friend, I had a cell phone, but my friend didn't. And his friend said, "Oh, can we get a landline And I said, oh, no worries. So I put that under my name. And when I signed up for the account, they said, oh, do you want to put your name in the white pages? And I'm like, sure. Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
You know how we're talking about how God does things?
Yeah.
And so I put it in there, note, thinking nothing of it other than I got my phone number in there. So if anyone wants to call my friend, then they can.
Yeah.
And I get home from Haggysack one day and the phone rings. And I never answered the phone when it rang because I knew it was not for me. Anyone want to get a hold of me, they could call me on my cell phone.
Yeah, right.
So I left it. But I was at home with my friend and he goes, oh, you're going to answer? I said, no, it would be from my flatmate who wasn't home. And so he picks it up. And there's a lady on the other end of the phone and he goes, yeah. Oh, I can just hear the conversation. He goes, yep, hang on, I'll get him. And I'm like, well, hang on, it's for me.
Right.
So I said to him, oh, who is it? And he goes, I don't know. I put the phone piece on my ear and I hear this lady. Straight away, my heart just kind of jumps. It's just like a voice I've heard, but I don't know who it is. And I'm like, hi, is this Hanz? Yes, Hanz, my full name. I've got 4 names. And yeah, are you born on this date? Yes. Who is this?
Wow.
Goes, it's me, your mother. And I'm like, dead silence. I just, what? I didn't even go, oh, yeah, okay, thank God that's 2. I just went, what is happening?
Wow.
And she goes, hello. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, can we talk? And I said, oh, look, I've got a friend here at the moment. Can I call you back? I'm thinking, I'm not going to call you back. This is some scam. This is some sort of dodgy happenings going on.
Yeah.
And she goes, yep. And she gave me a number. I wrote it down.
Was she in New Zealand?
Was she? Yeah, she was in New Zealand. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
And so I hung up. And then this conversation between me and my friend, who basically I'd never, we'd hang out for years. I'd never told my story about my parents. So I shared about my parents and how they left and all that sort of carry on. And he goes, oh, I think you should call her. And I was just like, it's not what I really wanted to hear from my friend. I was hoping you'd go, oh, don't worry about it. You're living a good life now and you've got a job and all that sort of carry on.
Wow.
But he really encouraged me to call her back and have that conversation. And so I did. And so I guess that's kind of weird, at the I was about 28. Yeah,
wow.
I must have been 28. Yeah. So that's when my mother came back into my life.
So God made the 10-year window.
He did. He sneaked in there by a few days, probably.
Show off.
Yeah, man. Hate it when he's right. So, and I was okay with that. And, I was really excited to have her back in my life. And I was playing Haggysack at the time, of course. And a friend had reached out and said, hey, look, do you want to come to Australia for a Haggysack competition? And I'm like, cool, I'm in. And so I was saying, hey, look, I said to my mother, hey, let's catch up when I get back from Australia. She goes, oh, you're going to Australia? I said, where are you going? She goes, I said, I'm going to Sydney. She goes, oh, my sister, your auntie, lives in Australia. Here's her number. Give her a call when you get there. And I'm like, so all of a sudden, for having no family from day dot to 28 years old, other than my brother, I've got this family coming back into my life.
Wow.
And, obviously my mother says, oh, I'm the youngest of 5 boys, so this is where I find all this out. I've got 4 older brothers and 2 to, with several fathers and stuff. So it was just like, what is happening? And I ended up going, okay, I get to Australia, I meet my auntie and her side of the family, and I'm just awestruck. I'm just like, I've got some, the one thing I wanted in my whole life was to have family around, feeling inadequate and abandoned because I have to go to school by myself and can't get dropped off by dad or mum, or those hugs, and there's times when I'm crying or I want to ask a question but I can't because I've got no one near. Now I have all this family around. I'm like, I just want to be with them, and so I ended up moving to Australia shortly afterwards to be with my auntie, and I lived with them for a wee while. But it just wasn't the same. Trying to catch up on almost 30 years of having no family was really hard. It was difficult, and I ended up leaving there about 6-7 months later and coming back home.
But your mom lived in New Zealand?
She was living in Wellington at the time.
And so you moved to Australia and your mom was still in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, it's are you guys, I don't know for real. I don't. Are you close? Are the countries close to each other?
It's about a 3-hour plane trip to Australia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not bad. So wow, man. Dude, we have been on here an hour. That's how long the show is.
Oh, sorry.
No. Don't be sorry. I mean, it couldn't go as long. It's my show and the internet. So like we can go all day if you want, but no, I like to keep it around an hour. Dude, like I did not know all this about you. I did not know what God did for you in your life. Do you find yourself looking back going, instead of all that stuff that happened as a kid, because I know I can relate, you feel like a victim for so long. And then at some point, for me at least, there was this shift of it didn't happen to me. It happened for me. It made me the man that I am today. It gave me the ability to be empathetic and understanding of what other people are going through. And it really set the tone and the stage for God to show off. Right?
He's so good at it too.
I know. But like, do you feel that today? Do you feel like, man, this all happened for me?
Oh, without a doubt. People go, "Oh, would you change anything in my life?" And I say my life's been interesting. I don't downplay it. I don't. It is what it is. It's the only thing I've ever known is to survive and to move forward and keep getting up and be knocked down. So, but I attribute it to God. I have to. There's no other way. I don't care what other people think. This is my life, and it's been what it has been. It's been hard. It's been difficult. Tears, sadness, all those things, and and it's only because of God. I have to say it's only because of God, because I can have seen those little those footsteps, carrying me through those hardships, those tough times. Every time I've fallen over and not wanting to get up, there's so much more to my story than just the facts of this A, B, and C. These all those things to get me to those next steps, and that that's it's only because I've been carried by God. And I know that, and that's and where do I go from here? I have no idea. I just write a book and tell my story, because that's that's the one thing I know. It's the one thing that I have been able to say. Yeah, I dropped out of school. I've been sexually abused and survived suicide and all those things, and it's not on my strengths. Far from it. It's more the fact that God has gone, I've got something for you. And I don't even know what that is. Right. I'm just like being that kind of guy who just, carries on through life and just move forward,
Wow. Wow, man. So do you have a family are you married with kids? You got, any like other cool stuff?
Young Hanses are running around. I do. Look, my story is it's all in my book, and I don't want to take the time up.
No. Don't worry about the time, dude. I was only pointing out the time because I lost track of time. Like I was so immersed in your story. What an incredible story. So just keep going, man.
Keep going. Oh,
yeah.
It's I don't know, and I think that my mother's come back in my life. I've gone to Australia. I've come back. I've come back because the ex-girlfriend that I had says, "Hey, look, you know how that sexual abuse thing was happening. It's come up again. It's gone through the courts.
Oh, wow.
It's the people who have been in that situation. They're wanting people to come forward again. I gave my testimony, my police statement the day after I told Laura, after I spazzed out at the house meeting. So I went to the police station. So that was on record. So I came back and approached the police and said, look, I've made a statement all those years ago. Do you still need, someone to say blah, blah, blah? Because the guy was going to court, he'd been arrested and all that sort of stuff. And it was, I guess, a part of my life that was very much, I can say orchestrated, because I would have never have come back. I would have just happily stayed over there, tried to stay over there, but I was getting into the wrong things over there back in Australia. So that was part of the reason I came back. I was getting back into the drugs and getting into that sort of environment that wasn't good for me. I'd seen it all before. I'd lived it all before, and it was something that I had steered away from. But now that I was in a new place, trying to find my place in Australia, I was getting back into it, and I didn't want that. So I opted to come back. And it was all kind of planned, I guess, because it was the same time the court cases were happening. And so I came back, and I didn't have to testify because my case was heard. It had been documented, years ago. And so my case was case number 5 out of those. And he was the guy was convicted and sent to jail however many years later, and it was like a final portion of kind of like a closing of the door of the surrounding the sexual abuse side of my life.
Yeah.
The guy had been brought to justice, although he'd only got 4 and a bit years or 3 years by the end of the trial. I still felt some kind of justice, that I was able to have my say and be okay with whatever judgment was or sentence was put on him, because that's not my thing. My thing was all about trying to not drag that stuff into the next relationship or the next relationship or anything like that.
Right.
And that was what Laura had always talked about. If you don't deal with it now, it'll come back and haunt you in years to come.
Right.
So it's like she always pushed for that therapy for me, and so it was all kind of, although it was kind of up in the air and all over the show at sometimes, it was all part of the greater plan, I guess. And and if it wasn't one thing, it was another. And I think one of the things before I went to Australia, we kind of jumped back a bit after I gave my life to God. I wanted to leave. I was going into the new life of youth group and all that, the church circles, if you want to call it that. I wanted to leave everything of my past behind. And for me to do that, I had to go and say my piece to the guy that abused me, who was in jail. He went back a couple of times. And so I confronted him in jail through therapy. They organised it all, my therapist and stuff. So I got to say my piece, and basically I said what I had to say, and walked out and left. That's part of a healing process.
Wow.
That I came to on my own decision. No one said, "Oh, because you are a Christian now, you should go and do this." It wasn't that at all. It was something that I felt I needed to do because I wanted to leave that part of my life behind me. I didn't want any part. I didn't want anything like my abuse or abandonment, although I hadn't really dealt with my abandonment. I didn't want any of that to sort of hinder not so much my walk, but my future. So that was a decision I made quite early on.
Wow. Wow, man.
And so I get back from Australia. We do this thing. So it was under. I was abused under the Catholic Church. They were the group that were kind of looking after the group that was abused, and I ended up receiving quite a large amount of compensation. And with that money, I shot over to Europe and did a hacky sack thing and traveled around jumping from hacky tournament to hacky sack tournament.
Dude, I want to change just a little bit. You got to teach me hacky sack. I tried it several times. I never could get it, man. But I loved it. I had friends that did it, and it was like the cool thing to do back in the 80s.
Yeah, and that was me saying goodbye to my old life. I need to go away and find myself.
Yeah.
I wasn't walking a Christian walk as people would like to see on the outside, but on the inside, I knew God was there. I knew He was part of my life very much so, and so I wanted to go and not so much find Him again, but I wanted to find out what I wouldn't say meant to do, but what I was doing in life, and going away and being able to meet my father's side of the family in Austria and travel and play hacky sack and see the world from my perspective, as opposed from going online and seeing the world that way, was a big part of my life.
Wow.
And it was I'll probably talk about that in my book for maybe 2 chapters or so, 2 or 3 chapters.
Yeah.
And then I come back and I lose my best friend to suicide, which was that sucked, because we were so close. We were best of buds. We went to primary school together, so I've known him for 25 odd years. We were in the boys' home together. The same thing in the boys' home happened to him. And although we knew each other's story, we never openly spoke about it. And in the end, I lost my best friend to it. And
oh man,
yeah, it was hard. It was sucked, to be honest.
Yeah.
I went back to therapy for a while after that, because I'd lost my best friend, someone that I could confide in and be open and honest with, and yet that was no longer there. It was a part of my life. Always pay homage or respect to my best buddy every year, and that was on my so I laid him to rest on my birthday. So every year that's a reminder of that's right. I've got to go say give my respects to my buddy. So
on your birthday,
on my birthday,
Oh man,
just to keep it real.
Wow, man, wow.
Yeah,
dude, you've been through it. You've been through it, and you came out on the other side, man, like so victorious. And I can see, like I think I'm a pretty good judge of energy, other people's energy, man. And you just have this brightness about you. Like maybe it's that. Maybe it's that. No, man. I'm talking about coming off your face. You have this just wonderful energy, man. I love that. Love it. So you wrote a book. What made you decide to write your book?
So me and my best friend Jamie, who passed away, we would do mountain biking together, and that was our thing. So we'd obviously at first start, before we had money, it was arcade games. But as we got older, we had jobs and had money. It was mountain biking, and often we would ride up the hills, the local hills, and sit at the top, just sort of talking about our lives. And we would say, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if we wrote a book when we got older, and we could sit in our rocking chairs and compare how similar our lives had been, because they were very similar." And I think that was probably the seed that was planted all those years ago, and it wasn't until 2015, I made a video. 2015, 4 years ago, I had a marriage breakup, and I wouldn't say it almost broke me. It was pretty close to breaking me. And I've got two wee kids, two young fellas, and one older son who was blended family. I think that's what the term is.
Yeah.
And that was really hard. And then so there was a period of my life at the start of 2015 where I went searching, and I came across Periscope. Crazy little Periscope back in the day before live streaming became a thing.
Yeah.
And I came across a small group within the Periscope world called Scopers Unite.
Yep.
And they were like, hey, you should share your story, because everyone was just sharing their stories back then. And I was like, oh, okay. But I was really nervous. I didn't want to talk in front of a camera or to a camera like this. And I thought, what's the best way for me to be able to tell my story and not so much as talk, because I think I sound funny, and because I have a lisp, which is always weird. And so I thought, I'll just I'll play a song in the background, and I will basically have a placard with cards of my snippets, a few words, a couple of words on each piece of paper.
Yeah.
And so I did that in 2015, on December 19th, 2015. I shared my story on Scopers Unite, and we talk about God being the orchestrator of basically everything, if you choose to believe that, but I do anyway. And within a month of sharing that, I was in the States sharing my story at the Periscope Summit, something or other, whatever it's called, Summit Live.
Yeah.
And someone came up to me. In fact, it was someone says to me after, because someone, guy by the name of Sean Thomas, who runs Ask a Millionaire, he said,
I'm friends with Sean. He's a good dude.
He is a good dude. He asked me if he could share my story at the summit thing, because once I made it on Scopers Unite, I ended up putting it on YouTube.
Yeah.
He asked if I could do that. I said, yeah, it's fine. He says, oh, are you going to be at Summit Live? And I said, oh, I'm going to be in the States at that time, because I wanted to get away after the marriage breakup.
Yeah. To
get away for a couple of weeks. I said, I can. He goes, why don't you come to San Francisco? I said, I'm in. I'm keen.
Yeah.
And so I rock on up there, and he says, oh, I'd love you to do a wee talk about, your video. And I'm like, nervous as crazy, man.
Yeah.
And ended up standing in front of about 1,000 people saying, not much at all. Just said, this is my story. Yeah. And they played the video. And afterwards, people were like, oh, wow, cool story. And asked me, have you got a website? Have you got this? And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm just a regular guy from the other side of the planet. Yeah. Who shared a story on Periscope. And then someone says to me, oh, do you have a book? A book? Oh, and that was the seed, planted all those years ago when I was with my mate. Someone had asked me, have I got a book? And I'm like, you know what? I think I might write a book. And that was because of Jamie back then, but it was also someone had said to me at this Periscope Summit, have you got a book? So it was basically going, oh, maybe I should actually now write my book. And so that's what I've done.
Wow, dude. You know what, man? You are absolutely phenomenal. You're phenomenal. And I'm honored to call you a friend. I did not know all of this. I have your book. I told you I have it on Kindle. I'm blown away by your story, dude. It's incredible. And you're still in the church, I assume.
I don't go to church, but I still have a relationship with God.
Good, man. That's incredible. Your story is phenomenal, and I would highly encourage anyone watching this to get the book. In fact, I just got an email from Amazon this morning. They've made me an Amazon influencer. I still don't know exactly what that means, but I'm going to put, I have an Amazon store that they've given me. I don't even, but apparently I can add whatever I want to it. I'm going to add your book to my store on Amazon and promote it, man, because, you're a good dude, man. You're a good guy. You've been through it and God brought you to the other side.
He has indeed. Appreciate it.
And people need to know that there's hope. You need to share your story, dude. You need to share it because there's a lot of pain in this world. People that go through the crap and they don't know how to come out on the other side, and they end up doing what your friend did, and that I've seen it myself, and it's heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching, man. So, dude, I would encourage you to share your story as often as you can, man, because you've got an incredible story.
Appreciate it, King. Yeah.
Wow. Here, hold your book up so everybody can see it.
That's Keen's book, just saying.
Don't show my book.
Hey,
I love it, dude. You're awesome. So
here's my book, Walking on Glass. That photo is me in the Bonneville Flats in wherever that is, Utah somewhere. So it's a few hundred pages long, 300 and something odd pages. You know what? I just got these printed yesterday. So, Ken, if you want to find someone, one of your people, whatever, you let me know their details, and I will send them one of these, a signed one.
Wow, that's
first
awesome.
edition.
So you mean people that want on the stream, or what are you talking about?
I don't know. Look, I'll give you. I will send you one of these. You just tell me the address, and I'll send it to one of your followers or whatever. So
anybody watching, wow, dude.
Yeah.
Anybody watching right now, if you send Hanz, and Hanz, I'm going to go back in and do some editing, and I'll tag you in this video, but just look up, if you don't know Hanz, look him up, Hanz Freller. And it's Freller, correct?
Correct. That's me.
And just look him up on Facebook, send him a message and tell him you saw him on this show, and Hanz is saying he'll send. Dude, that's expensive to ship. Well, you got to sign it. You're going to have to send it from New Zealand to the States.
Yeah. I will give, let's say we'll give five books.
Wow.
We'll work out $5. So you choose whoever.
The first 5 people to send Hanz a message, plus me. No, but the first 5 people to send Hanz a message will get a signed copy of his amazing book. Dude, your story needs to be heard a lot more often. A lot more. You can save, and my buddy Jeff Hart, if you don't know Jeff, you guys need to connect. He is a friend of mine. He's a Zig Ziglar certified coach and speaker and trainer and all those awesome things. And he said it right here, man. He said, your story will save someone's life. And it's absolutely true. And man, like I've told my story of alcoholism and all this stuff many, many times. And I've heard, who just typed, wow, what an amazing interview with my name. That's crazy. How'd that happen? I did not type that. That's crazy. Must be my wife on my fan page, maybe. I don't know. That's weird. Look, I'm talking some more.
You're talking and talking.
What is going on here? But anyway, dude, like, you can help people, man. Keep sharing, dude. And anybody on here watching, make sure that you get a copy of Hanz's book. and show the book one more time, if you would, Hans. I'm going to make this full screen. Walking on Glass.
And, I always like to do things with intention. And, I don't think I'll write another book, but if I do, we'll cross that bridge once I get to it. So this is my life story. This is the chapters. Each of the chapters you probably can't see.
Yeah,
named after my some of my favorite songs.
Oh, wow. Dude, that is so awesome.
So it's even more special.
Wow. Wow, dude. Man, I am so grateful that I asked you to come on the show and that you agreed to, man. Thank you.
It's a privilege to be on your show, Ken.
Dude, thank you for being so open and transparent and authentic, and anybody that has been through what Hans has been through, I just have a feeling he can help you with that. So reach out to him. And my friend Jamie Aguirre is on here, and she's sending you a request for a book right now. She's amazing. She lives out in California. So she's one of the cool people in California. Not everybody's cool in California. I'm just saying. I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
Anyway, dude, I love you, man. You're awesome. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on the show, Ken.
All right. Hey, thank you to everyone who's watched this. We've been on here quite a bit longer than usual, but that's all right. This has been awesome. So thank you all. Thank you all for sharing and sharing this out. Thank you. Hans, thank you again.
No problems. Thanks.